Hello and welcome back to Bedding School from the Form Guide, and forgive the extra sparkle in the voice because this is a special. 1 week today, glorious Goodwood begins. 5 days of the summer's best racing on the Sussex Downs, and this is your complete guide. Here is the roadmap. First, what the festival actually is and why the racing world decamps to a hilltop for a week. Then the course itself. The strangest, loveliest track in the country and why it makes and breaks horses. Then the 5 races that matter most, from the Sussex Stakes to the madness of the Stewards' Cup. And then the heart of it, real data. 130 Goodwood races from the last 12 months run through our own model. The draw, the favourites, the trainers, and one honesty note we insist on. Then how to follow every race of the week with us. An honest chapter, recap and home. Deck chairs out. Let's begin. So what is glorious Goodwood? 5 days of top-class flat racing in late July, and this year, Tuesday the 28th of July to Saturday the 1st of August. Staged on the Duke of Richmond's estate high on the Sussex Downs. King Edward VII called it a garden party with racing tacked on, and a century later that is still exactly the mood. Linen suits and Panama hats where Ascot wears top hats. But do not let the deck chairs fool anyone. The racing is ferocious. Group 1s, championship contests, and some of the most competitive handicaps of the entire season all crammed into 1 week. It is the meeting where the summer's arguments get settled. Before a single price makes sense, you have to understand the racecourse itself, because Goodwood is not like other tracks. It is a ribbon of turf laid along the top of a chalk ridge, and everything that happens during the week, including the data we are about to show you, flows from its shape. Goodwood is sharp, undulating, and quite unlike anywhere else. A switchback carved along the spine of the downs, all cambers and gradients, climbing and plunging where most tracks lie flat. The straight runs downhill for much of its length, so horses are asked to quicken while running away from their own balance. That is why course specialists thrive here. A nimble, well-balanced horse that has handled these slopes before holds an advantage the form book from Newbury or York simply cannot show, and it is why big, long-striding, galloping types, the ones who look magnificent on wide, flat tracks, so often get unbalanced on the descent and find nothing. At Goodwood, course form is not a footnote, it is a headline. 35 races run across the 5 days, but 5 of them carry the week. Learn these 5 and you can follow every conversation at the festival. From the champion Islers settling scores on Wednesday, through the great stayers and the flying 5 furlong specialists, all the way to 28 sprinters going flat out down the hill on Saturday afternoon. Start at the top. The Sussex Stakes is the mile championship of the summer, the race where the best older milers finally meet the Guineas generation, 3-year-olds against their elders, and arguments that have simmered since spring get settled in under 1 minute and 40 seconds. It has been won by legends, and a Great Sussex Renewal is the single best race of the week. Then the Goodwood Cup, which opens the festival on Tuesday. 2 miles for the great stayers, the marathon runners of the game, and part of the stayers' Triple Crown. And the Nassau Stakes, the fillies and mares' championship over 10 furlongs. A race with a habit of being won by genuine superstars. Now the fast and the furious. The King George Stakes is the 5 furlong dash. Pure speed down the hill, the fastest horses in training covering 5 furlongs in under 1 minute, where a flying start matters more than almost anything in racing. And then Saturday's finale, the Stewards' Cup, 6 furlongs, 28 runners, and quite simply the most ferocious sprint handicap of the season. A cavalry charge across the Sussex turf, every jockey riding for their life, and a betting heat the whole country gets involved in. It is glorious chaos, and precisely because it is chaos, it is where the data we are about to walk through earns its keep most. Enough romance, a time for evidence. Everything from here comes from one place. 130 Goodwood races from the last 12 months run through our own model, the same engine that prices the daily shows. No folklore, no recycled pundit lines, just what actually happened on these slopes, starting with the single most valuable fact of the week, the draw. Here is the headline finding. We took every Goodwood race up to 7.5 furlongs with 8 or more runners, 43 races, and split the field into thirds by stall position. The green bar is the low third, the stalls nearest the stands rail. Those runners won 13.6% of the time each. The middle third, in blue, won 9.9%. And the high third, in red, just 4.7% per runner. Look at the gap between the ends of that chart. Low draws won nearly 3 times as often as high draws. Same races, same distances, same week. And where the stalls handler puts a horse changed its chance that much. In a Goodwood sprint, the draw is not a detail, it is half the story. Why does the low side win so much? Track shape again. In the sprints, the field breaks and drifts towards the stands rail, and the horses drawn low get the shortest, straightest run, often on the best strip of ground, while high-drawn runners either burn petrol crossing over or race wide of the action all the way. Now apply it to Saturday, 28 runners in the Stewards' Cup, and the data says the stalls have already sorted them into haves and have-nots before the gates open. One caution, and it is our standing caution. The market knows this too, so a plum draw is usually part-priced in. The edge is not knowing the bias exists. It is judging when the price has not fully caught up. Next question for the model. How do favourites get on around this switchback? Across our year of data, Goodwood favourites won 50 of 126 races with a clear market leader at 39.7%, the green bar. The gold line underneath is the national average from our full 17,000 race corpus, 34.8. So Goodwood favourites run nearly 5 points above the country, and the red bar reminds us they still lose 60.3% of the time. That result surprises people who expect a quirky track to produce quirky results. The opposite is true because course form matters so much here, and course form is public. The market reads Goodwood unusually well. Quirky track, well-read market. Sit with that for a second because it cuts against the folklore. The story goes that a strange, hilly track means carnage for the market. The data says the reverse. The market is better at Goodwood than it is nationally. 39.7 against 34.8. Our reading is simple. The things that decide races here, course form and the draw, are visible to everyone, so the crowd prices them efficiently. 2 consequences follow. First, respect short-priced Goodwood favourites a touch more than instinct suggests. Second, remember course of 3. A higher win rate is not automatically a profitable one because the prices adjust too. The strike rate tells you the market is sharp here. It does not hand anyone a system. Some yards treat Goodwood as 5 days among many. Others aim horses at this meeting all year. Here is our model's trainer table for the course over the last 12 months. Minimum 10 runners. Top of the list, David Menuisier, a Sussex yard, gallops on these same downs, striking at 29%. Ralph Beckett at 25%, William Haggas at 24%. Elite operations that clearly target the week. Now the other end. Richard Hannon, 17%, and Andrew Balding, 16%. Both fine trainers, both sending big teams, but hitting at barely half the rate of the top 3. Volume is not the same as intent. A yard that runs many and wins few here is telling you something about how it uses this meeting. How should you actually use a table like that? As a lens, never a verdict. A 29% course strike rate says the Menuisier yard knows how to ready a horse for these slopes, worth a second look whenever the stable declares one. A 16 or 17% rate from a big string does not make those runners bad bets. It means the yard's entries here need the form book to make the case on its own. And keep the standing caveat, a year of one course is a modest sample even at the top, and every one of these numbers will drift as new races land. Trainer form opens a question, the race card answers it. One more finding, and we show it to you mainly to show you how to distrust it. In big field Goodwood handicaps, 13 runners or more favourites went 7 from 16 over our year. 43.8%, the gold bar, towering over the Goodwood average of 39.7 and the national mark of 34.8. Exciting, isn't it? Big field handicap favourites, supposedly the most vulnerable horses in racing, cleaning up on the Switchback. Now, the cold water, 16 races, 16! That is a coin flip sample. So flip any coin 16 times and streaks appear that mean nothing. The honest reading is a note in the margin, not a headline. Intriguing, unproven, and waiting for more data. Treat it with care. Why spend a whole scene rubbishing our own statistic? Because this is the difference between analysis and tipping. 7 from 16 looks like a discovery. It is far more likely to be Noise wearing a nice suit. Small samples throw up loud numbers constantly, and the whole tipping industry runs on presenting them as secrets. Our rule on the shows is simple. The smaller the sample, the louder the health warning. And if a number cannot survive us saying how thin it is, it was never a finding. So when we quote the draw bias with 43 races behind it, you know we mean it. When we quote 7 from 16, you know exactly how likely to hold it. That honesty is the whole brand. So how do you actually follow the week with us? Simple. For every single race across the 5 days, the Form Guide publishes a short, roughly 2 hours before each off, with the models read on the race, the draw picture, the pace, the price we think is wrong, all inside 60 seconds. The big 5 get the full treatment in our big race verdicts. And then the part we are proudest of. Every night at 10, the Goodwood receipt. Every call we made that day, settled in public, winners and losers alike, nothing quietly deleted. A week like this is exactly what the model was built for. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and mark your card with us from the Goodwood Cup on Tuesday to the Stewards Cup on Saturday. Every betting school production carries an honest chapter, and a festival special needs it more than most, because here is what the brochures will not tell you. Glorious Goodwood is one of the very hardest betting weeks of the entire year, and the excitement is precisely the danger. Festival betting is the most competitive of the year. Full stop. The markets are at their sharpest. Every serious analyst in the country has been over these races for weeks. And we showed you earlier how well the crowd already reads this track. The fields are huge, so even correct opinions get beaten by traffic and luck more often than usual. And there are 35 races in 5 days, which the industry treats as 35 invitations. Nobody has a strong view 35 times. The punters who enjoy this week most are the ones with the discipline to sit races out. Discipline beats excitement, and if the week ever stops feeling like fun, that is the signal to stop, not to chase. BeGambleAware.org is there all year round. Let's fold the week into one card. Glorious Goodwood, 5 days on the Sussex Downs, Tuesday the 28th of July to Saturday the 1st of August. The course is a sharp, undulating switchback on chalk. Course specialists thrive. Big galloping types get unbalanced, and course form is a headline. 5 races carry the week: the Sussex, the Goodwood Cup, the Nassau, the King George, and Saturday's 28-runner Stewards Cup. The data from 130 races through our model. In the sprints, low draws win 13.6% per runner against 4.7 high. Nearly triple. Favourites strike at 39.7%, 5 points above the national 34.8, because this quirky track is a well-read one. Menuisier, Beckett and Haggarth lead the trainer table. And the 7 from 16 handicap number stays in the margin, because 16 races is a coin flip. Honesty first, always. And that is Glorious Goodwood Explained. You can now watch this festival the way the model does. You know why the Switchback rewards balance over brilliance, which 5 races carry the week. Why a low draw in the sprints is worth nearly 3 of the high ones. Why the market reads this track better than the folklore admits. And why a shiny 7 from 16 stays in the margin until the sample grows up. Follow the whole week with us on the Form Guide. A short for every race about 2 hours before the off. The big race verdicts for the championship contests. And every night at 10, the Goodwood receipt, where every call we made is settled in public. The wins and the losses alike. Subscribe and turn on notifications so Tuesday's Goodwood Cup lands in your feed. Now the serious bit, said with love. Everything in this special is education and opinion only. Never financial advice and never an instruction to bet. Betting is for adults aged 18 and over. With money and time you can comfortably spare, and no statistic, draw bias or trainer table removes the losing runs. If the fun ever stops or it starts to feel like a need, talk to someone. That is begambleaware.org. Thank you for studying with me. See you soon. See you on the downs.